difficult.
Lucy is in agony. Her 2-year-old daughter Vicky is dead. She thinks it was malaria, and it's likely she lives in one of the worst affected areas in the world. When high fever set in, she took Vicky to hospital, but she died on the way.
Her body was still warm, and so people said maybe they can still save her. When I arrived at the hospital, I had to wait for a long time for a doctor. When he came, he confirmed my girl had already been dead for hours.
Naiga is just 1 year old. She's in pain with fever. She tests positive for malaria, but at this health centre she'll get the life-saving medicine in time, and so she'll probably be okay. The malaria patients that make it to clinics like this are among some of the luckier ones. Others, deep in the villages, can't afford the transport, and many don't find treatment before it's too late. That means many cases, many deaths, and even people's whole lives can pass completely unrecorded. In Uganda, much of the population lives in isolated areas. The World Health Organization says 30,000 children die of malaria here every year, but with few records, it's hard to keep track.
Well, there is no accurate data in Africa. If we look at malaria specifically, it's a disease that resembles very many other diseases. So unless you have a case that's been diagnosed using proper diagnostic methods and basically have had an autopsy, you cannot really tell if that case was caused by malaria or not.
And it's from this void of reliable data that international assistance is planned. Moses KINTU is a volunteer trained to diagnose and treat malaria in children living in remote rural communities. The international donors that fund the scheme target the most vulnerable children, and so he can only treat children under 5. If it's an older child or an adult, all he can do is advise them to go elsewhere. He thinks the donors should support him to help everyone.
If they are willing to help even the adults, for us we are ready. Because if I can manage the younger ones, out of the adults.
Moses has also been trained to write down all the malaria cases and deaths and send the data in every week by text message. It's a pilot scheme run by the Ugandan government in just 2 districts, a small step towards collecting the accurate data that the policymakers need. But the only remaining evidence of Vicky's life is the heap of earth on her grave. Her illness was never properly recorded. Her story is lost, remembered only by her grieving family. Webb, Jazeera, Kiboga District in western Uganda.